Tonight, somewhere on Earth, a baby is going to open its mouth and say one word. Mama. Whoever hears it will freeze. Their whole chest will crack open with the certainty that this tiny person just named them, just chose them, just spoke its very first act of love. But that is not what happened. The truth is far stranger, and it has almost nothing to do with the person the baby is looking at. Have you ever stopped to wonder why it is always that word? Not one sound here, and a completely different sound on the other side of the planet. Across the entire human species in languages that have never once touched, the first word comes out almost identical. Mama, mommy, me, ime, ame, different scripts, different histories, different gods watching over them. The same soft sound. A coincidence that big is not a coincidence at all. To understand it, you have to let go of the idea that the baby is naming anyone. A newborn does not know it has a mother. It does not know it has a self. It does not yet know where its own body ends and the rest of the world begins. So when that first mama arrives, the baby is not pointing at a person. It is doing something much simpler and much older. It is making the single easiest sound a human mouth can possibly produce. Think about what your own mouth does when it is completely at rest. Your lips fall together softly, no effort at all. That is the resting position of a human face. Now add the one thing a baby does more than anything else in the world, which is push air out while wanting something. Send a breath through a closed mouth, and one sound escapes entirely on its own. The baby is not choosing that sound. The baby's anatomy is choosing it for them. More than half a century ago, a linguist named Roman Jakobson sat down with this exact puzzle. He had noticed the same thing you just noticed, that babies everywhere seem to begin in the same place, no matter what language surrounds them. And he worked out why. The first vowel a baby can make is ah, because ah is nothing more than an open mouth and a voice. The first consonant a baby can make is M, because M is nothing more than a closed mouth and a voice. Put the easiest consonant in front of the easiest vowel, and you get a single syllable ma. Babies repeat everything, so they say it twice. Mama. It is, quite literally, the path of least resistance through the human face. Nothing in that sound means mother, nothing in it means love. It is the noise a mouth makes when it is barely trying at all. So here is the question that should start to bother you. If mama is just an accident of anatomy, why does it mean mother almost everywhere on Earth? Why didn't half the planet decide that easy little sound should mean tree or fire or go away? That answer came from an anthropologist named George Murdock. In 1959, he did something almost no one had thought to do. He gathered the words for mother and father from more than 400 languages, tongues from every continent, many of them with no shared ancestor whatsoever. Then he laid them all out, side by side, and looked for a pattern. The pattern was impossible to miss. The mama-type sounds pointed overwhelmingly at the mother. The papa and tata-type sounds pointed overwhelmingly at the father. This was not one culture borrowing a word from its neighbor. This was the very same thing happening independently over and over in places that had never met. And the fathers? They got the runner-up. The next easiest sounds after the closed mouth hum are the ones made by tapping the lips or the tongue and letting go. A tiny burst of released air. Those are the sounds a baby stumbles into right after it masters the hum, which is why fathers all over the world so often ended up with papa, baba, dada, tata. The mother got the very first sound the mouth produces. The father got the second one. It is almost as if the order in which a baby learns to move its lips quietly decided what entire civilizations would call their parents. Does that feel too neat to be real? 400 languages say otherwise, but the deepest part of the story is not about which parent got which sound. It is about who chose the meaning at all. Because the baby did not name you, you named yourself. Picture the moment from the parent's side. A baby begins babbling those easy strings of sound. Mama, bababa, da-da-da. Months before it understands a single word. It is not talking. It is just exercising a brand new mouth. But the adult leaning over the crib does not hear noise. The adult hears meaning because the adult is aching to. And which sound is the baby most likely to be making in the exact moment a parent is holding it close, feeding it, soothing it? The one that comes out of a closed and busy mouth. So across thousands of years and thousands of cultures, mothers heard that sound, decided it belonged to them, and answered to it. The word did not travel from baby to mother. It traveled from a mother's hope into the dictionary, and it runs deeper than hope. That M sound is secretly tied to the one thing keeping the baby alive. When an infant latches onto feed, its lips seal and its nose keeps breathing, and the only sound that can escape a closed mouth and an open nose is that very same hum. For a baby, the M sound and the act of being fed are almost the same physical event. It is the sound of comfort, the sound of the body's oldest need being answered. Is it really any surprise that this became the sound welded forever to the person who answers it? Now comes the part that should give you a chill. If mama were nothing but babies copying the sounds they hear around them, then a baby who hears nothing at all should never arrive there. So researchers went looking for exactly those babies. In 1991, a scientist named Laura Ann Petitto studied deaf infants, babies born to deaf parents, raised completely in sign language, who had never heard a single spoken word in their lives. And those babies babbled, not with their voices, with their hands. They made the same rhythmic, repeating, meaningless little movements in the air that hearing babies make with their mouths. A silent bababa traced out by tiny fingers. The babbling was not coming from the ears. It was rising up from somewhere far deeper. It was coming straight out of the brain itself, on a schedule written long before the baby was ever born. This is the heart of it. Babbling is not imitation. It is a program, and every human is born with it already installed. Researchers like Kimbrough, Oller, who spent years recording what babies do with their voices, found that the first true babbling appears almost like clockwork, somewhere around 6 or 7 months in baby after baby, language after language, nearly regardless of what they are hearing. The mouth follows a hidden timetable. First, the open vowels, then the easy closed consonants, and the repeating syllables that sound, to a hopeful parent, exactly like a name. Have you ever noticed that you cannot teach a 4-month-old to say mema, no matter how hard you try, and you cannot stop a 7-month-old from babbling it? That is not the baby learning your language. That is the baby's biology arriving right on schedule. Consider what a newborn brain is actually doing in those first months. It arrives mostly unfinished, wiring itself in real time, flooded with far more sensation than it can possibly sort. It cannot walk, it cannot reach with any precision, it cannot even hold up its own head, but it can move its lips, and it can push air, and almost from the start, it begins to play with those two abilities. Like a tiny instrument, it does not yet know how to read. Every coo, every gurgle, every wet little raspberry is the baby tuning that instrument. The babble is not a mistake on the road to language. The babble is the road. So step back and look at what you're actually hearing when a baby says that word. You're not hearing a name. You're not hearing a decision. You are hearing the most basic machine in all of human language switching on for the very first time. A brand new mouth discovering the easiest sound it can make, cradled in the arms of the person most likely to answer it. That exact scene has played out for as long as there have been human lips and human ears to hear them. Your ancestors heard it in firelit caves. They heard it under open skies on the grasslands 100,000 years ago in a language that has left no other trace on earth. Some infant pressed its lips together and hummed, and some exhausted parent felt their entire world quietly rearrange itself around that single sound. You are simply the latest link in that unbroken chain. The very same sound your most distant ancestor once coded is the sound a baby will make tomorrow morning, in a city that ancestor could never have dreamed, and it does not stop at the edge of the crib. That ancient little syllable is hiding all through your adult life, in places you have never once questioned. Mama, mom, mom, ma. The soft, warm words you reach for without thinking all keep circling back to that same closed-mouth hum, because the bond between that sound and the feeling of being cared for was burned in before history even began. You believe you learned your first word. You did not. It found its way out of you, sliding along a groove worn smooth by every human mouth that came before yours. And here's the strangest twist of all. The thing that feels most personal, a child gazing up and seeming to name you, turns out to be the least personal thing in the entire world. It is not about your face. It is not about your love. It is a sound so simple that raw anatomy produces it on its own, so universal that strangers scattered across the whole planet each arrived at it alone, so ancient that it came before almost everything you would call human, and somehow that makes it more beautiful, not less. Because when a baby finally says it, the baby is not telling you that you are special. The baby is telling you something far larger than that you belong to the same species with the same lips, the same brain, and the same ancient need as every single person who has ever lived. So the next time a baby opens its mouth and that one soft word falls out, remember what you're truly witnessing. Not a child naming its mother. 100,000 years of human mouths all making the same first sound in the same way, for the same reason, and reaching every single time toward the nearest person who will hold them. Tonight, somewhere on Earth, a baby is going to open its mouth and say one word. And now you know it was never your name at all. It was the oldest sound your species owns, quietly finding its way home.